Hey, what's up, everyone? Hope you're all doing great and ready for some Ark Survival Ascended news. One of the biggest parts of this update is all about thralls. For a while, players have noticed that thralls were leveling up way too much or behaving a little weird when possessed. That's been a constant discussion point, and finally, the devs have stepped in to fix it properly. Thralls will no longer gain levels while they're possessed, which means that weird, unbalanced stat growth that was happening is no longer going to throw things off. And to clean up what's already been affected, the patch actually resets the levels and redistributes the stats of any thralls that were impacted before. It's a bit of a reset, sure, but it's one of those necessary ones that keeps things fair and consistent. The devs did mention that some known issues are still being looked into, like thrall levels resetting when you put them into a cryopod or when the server restarts, and that first restart where their health display might not look quite right. But at least they're being upfront about it, and they've even added a special server option called Fix Thrall Stats for unofficial servers, which should help admins smooth things out on their end. Another nice touch is that thralls can no longer catch swamp fever. That little bug has been around for too long, and honestly, it's one of those small fixes that'll make a huge difference for people who rely heavily on thralls in their base setups. There's also a small but handy fix with the workbench. Before, when you were trying to combine items, it would check for something called Bob's Tall Tales, which was kind of unnecessary and caused some strange interactions. That's been fixed too, making crafting just a bit cleaner and less frustrating. The devs have also taken care of several crash issues, which is great news for stability. We all know that Ark can sometimes be a little temperamental, especially on larger maps or when there's a lot going on at once. So hearing that multiple crash fixes have gone through should bring some peace of mind for players running more active servers or those who just hate losing progress to random disconnects. Alongside that, there are also a few exploit fixes tucked into this patch, which means some of those sneaky workarounds or unintended advantages people were using are finally being shut down. It's always nice to see the playing field get balanced again. Now, let's talk about Lost Colony, because there have been some important changes to how creatures spawn in that area. If you've been wandering around those starter zones, you might have noticed things getting a little too intense too early. Especially when creatures like Spinosaurus and Caprosicus decided to make those spots their hangout zones. That's been corrected. Both have been removed from the starter water spawns, so early game players won't get instantly shredded. They also turned off Rex solo spawns in the starter area, which is another huge quality of life tweak. Dino spawn balancing overall got some serious attention this time. Otters have been removed from certain water zones. Megaraptors were given their own dedicated spawners, and even creatures like Perlovia and Thylacoleo had their spawn weights adjusted so they'll appear more naturally instead of crowding certain spots. Thylacoleo even got added to some high mountain spawners now, which should make hunting them a lot more interesting. On the world building side, the update also increased the number of active outposts, which adds a nice bit of life to the environment. It makes exploration feel a bit more dynamic since there are now more populated or interactive locations scattered around. And when you combine that with the other balance tweaks, the game just feels smoother overall. The devs seem to be aiming for a better experience, both for newcomers and for longtime players who've been building massive bases or running tribes across servers. What's really nice about this patch is that while it doesn't completely change the game, it definitely makes the core systems stronger. Every small fix, from the stat resets to spawn balance to the removal of weird crafting checks, adds up to make Ark Survival Ascended feel a little more polished, a little more stable, and just more enjoyable to spend time in. You can tell that the developers are paying attention to what the community is saying, especially with how directly they addressed thrall issues and those specific Lost Colony spawn problems. It's the kind of patch that might not sound massive at first glance, but once you start playing after it installs, you can feel the difference. So yeah, version 1.077.048 really seems like one of those behind-the-scenes improvement updates that clears the path for smoother future patches while giving us a much more stable game in the meantime. Whether you're managing your base, exploring new biomes, or just trying to keep your thralls from breaking the rules of the game, this update is going to make things a lot more balanced and fair. It's definitely worth checking out and giving a spin, because every one of these little fixes adds up to make Ark Survival Ascended that much closer to the polished survival experience everyone's been hoping for.